Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. I went past Academy today, Academy Sports. I had to run the excursion out to my mechanic and thought I'd stop by Academy to see kind of, what their stock of boom booms and things like that were. I'm sitting here in a nice morning drizzle. It's making me think that I should have put on a hat instead of a cap, but we're going to talk about fear, and I'm not too afraid of rain anyway, so I'll stay here. So I dropped by Academy, and I went back to the counter. The guy was there, and he said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "No, I just came by and see what you had in stock so I could tell people." He says, "Well, we got plenty." I said, "I see that." The counter was full of pistols, and the racks behind the counter were full of ammo. And he says, "Don't you want to look at some?" I said, "No, I've got enough." He says, "Oh, you never have enough." And to an extent, once you have enough for yourself, those are always good investments. But I said, we got to talking. And I asked him how things were going. He says, "Well, as you can see, it's coming back." He says that up until about a couple of weeks ago, he had what he called ammo whores, 50 ammo whores waiting for him every time the doors opened, and they'd be lined up, and they'd sell out in not very long. And then it dwindled down about a week ago to about a dozen. And then as people saw that, there's more coming in. He says this morning there was only about 3. Well, that made me think of something that I've been telling people for a long time. When all of this started, after the last election, and everybody was afraid that they weren't going to be able to buy boom booms and the seeds that go in them. There was a run, and everybody went out there and bought everything they could get. And all of a sudden, the counters were depleted, almost, not quite as bad as they were the last time we went through a big one like this. But they were depleted, and of course you couldn't find any ammo anywhere. And everybody was just sure this was the end. And so many people out there on YouTube and just people that I would run into would say, "You got to pay whatever you have to. Pay whatever you've got to do. Whatever you have to do, you got to pay for it to get some." And I said, "No, don't do it. That's ridiculous. Number one, you should have as much as you need anyway. And if you don't, then shame on you. But this is just like every other time. There are peaks and valleys. You're going to go through a shortage, and then it's going to come out the other end. Okay, and it's going to be available again. And it's happened exactly the way I've said it's going to. Now, I'm not here to pat myself on the back and say, look how smart I am, but I've been through this before. And I try to warn people about this. This is the cost of fear. Fear keeps you from doing things that you should do, but it also makes you do things that you shouldn't do, just like this. And I would venture to say, because I know it to be true, there are millions out there who overpaid for ammo over the last year or two. Okay, now they did so out of fear. They did so out of fear that, ammo will never be available again. They're going to make it illegal. They're going to outlaw it. They're going to this, they're going to that. And we're going to need it to, whatever, right? Well, that first off, that was a foolish thought, as I've explained in other things. If you were and then people would say, well, you got to buy enough to train. Well, I've addressed that also, and I'll just throw it in here. I shoot maybe once or twice a year. Okay, and I know I've heard people say, well, shooting is a perishable skill. Yes, it is to a certain extent, but I shoot maybe once or twice a year, and I'm going to have to start shooting more now because I'm teaching my kids, and actually Kelly wants to go out, and I've got other people that want to go out and shoot. I don't care so much about it. I shoot once or twice a year, like I said, and I shoot pretty much like I have for the last 45 years. It has not degraded when I go out there, and I shoot well enough. Now people say, well, what's well enough? Well, I've been in situations to where I know what's well enough, and most of the people who are out there questioning that have not been in situations to know what's well enough, what's good enough. When I do go to the ranges, as I was talking to this guy out there at the gun counter, and he said the same thing. He doesn't shoot that much, and he was an old dog like I am. I go to the gun ranges. I see far too many people. 150 pounds overweight, got all the accoutrements, out there with more equipment than their need, and more equipment than they are good enough to use to their max. And I can tell by looking in their eyes, these guys never been in a fist fight, let alone a gunfight. They're living in a fantasy world. A fantasy world that, if the real world ever comes knocking, is going to get them killed. It's because they are doing this out of fear. They are seeing through things through a prism of fear, and they aren't seeing reality. Now, I know that it's easy to be caught up in the crowd and to hear if everybody around you is saying, you better get ammo at any cost, you better get a boom at any cost. Well, if you haven't been through it before, if you haven't seen the ebbs and flows over the years, it's easy to believe that, I suppose. Okay, but cooler heads have to win out. And as you become more experienced, you need that experience to give you a cooler head. Now, I know that there's a lot of, I probably would have many more viewers if I got on here and said the sky is falling every day. Now, I do think we have some major problems, and they are major problems that we need to get prepared for if we're not already. But fear sells. I understand that. Sex and fear sells. Okay, this isn't a channel for the former, and while it can be a channel for the latter, is not mainly what it's not what I try to do here. Okay, but fear is what has these people doing. Now, the result of this fear, because what's happening now, guns are available. Their gun counter was full. Okay. You go on Kentucky Gun right now, you can buy ARs all day long. Now they're more expensive than they were a couple of years ago when smart people bought as many as they needed. But you can get them. Hey, it'll be shipped to your dealer here in a couple of days. You want to cost you under $700. You get yourself an AR that people were telling you you'd never be able to get again, maybe ever. They were going to outlaw them. You have to stop believing this kind of stuff, because if you believe this stuff, it keeps you from doing what you should be doing. Does that make sense? Okay. If you have overpaid for ammo or guns over the last year, you have spent money that you could have better used on other things to get you prepared. Does that make sense? Okay. Look at all that ammo that you've bought at inflated prices, and think what else you could have done. Could you have bought food? Could you have put a down payment on a piece of property with that? Could you have developed other skills? Could you have expanded your gardens? Could you all number of things? Could you have taken training? Could you have bought books? Could you have taken medical training? Could you have done any number of things that are maybe far less sexy than going out and buying ammo, but are probably going to be more necessary in more situations? You've wasted a lot of money. Now, I'm sorry for that. I don't mean that as a harsh criticism. I mean that as a lesson. Learn from this and don't let it happen to you again. Okay? The prices are coming down. Okay? A lot of that's from the pushback that's coming from the right. Remember, I've said before that the Republicans only do right when they're in the minority and they're pushing back against the craziness of the left. Well, they are pushing back, and more people are pushing back. And we got a lot of states pushing back. We got governors pushing back. We've got representatives and state reps and state senators and sheriffs, and we got a lot of people pushing back. Okay, so everybody who thought that this was going to be the final collapse of things was wrong. It's not. We're still in a fight, and we got to fight back. Okay. But buying ammo and hunkering down and hiding it away in your basement was not fighting back. It was just taking money out of your pocket. Maybe the other side meant that. What do you think? You have to consider that. Maybe they wanted to get more money out of your pocket. Could you have used that money to contribute to a good conservative representative or somebody running for office? Probably long term that would have done you better. Okay, well, just think about these things. Okay, now what I said exactly has happened. It's coming down. You can buy it all now. Now this applies to something else now too that everybody is worried about and afraid of. Okay, and worry and fear are very much alike. They're both wastes. Okay, worry is a waste of time, and fear is a waste of time and money. You worry because you're not doing anything about it. Okay, if you're doing something about a problem, you're not worrying. It's when you're not doing something about it. I did a whole thing on worry. I'm not going to do that again. But fear is the problem here. And now everybody is being told the cost of land is going up. The cost of property is skyrocketing. You'd better get some now. No. If you get some now, you're going to overpay. You have to understand what goes on with markets. And you can't understand when you're looking, through the scope of fear. I got to get it now. I got to get it now. Okay, fine. Well, I wish that I wanted to sell my house now, but I don't, because I could get a lot more than it's worth. Okay, and then I could find something and just wait a year when it all comes tumbling down and buy something for far less than it's worth. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Okay, I know that a lot of people out there are thinking, I've got to buy some land. I got to move to the small town. I've got to move to the country. Well, okay, if you for whatever reason feel that you need to do that right now, I'm certainly not putting that down. Everybody should live wherever they want to. I don't care. Do what you want to do, but realize this, that we are approaching the top of a real estate bubble. What happens to bubbles? For those of you who are old enough to remember what happened in 08 and 09, go back to that. For those of you who aren't old enough, well, we had inflated prices. And there was a lot of things that went into that. It had to do with derivatives and all sorts of things that you don't want to hear about right now. It was easy credit, and it caused a lot of people to buy houses that were more than they should have been able to buy, and they couldn't afford them, and they didn't pay their mortgages. And they started, the secondary market started bundling these mortgages that were close to default into things called derivatives and selling those to investors. Well, okay, it gets Okay, I'm sorry I even started down that road. Let me get back to the point here. The real estate is artificially inflated. When that happens, it sets the market up for a dive, a tumble. We're now coming to the end of the forbearance program that the CDC, of all places, put in, not allowing people to be thrown out of their houses because they haven't paid their mortgage or their rent. And now I see that they've extended that. It was supposed to be up the 30th of June, and now I see they've extended that through the 31st of July, as if that's going to help. Now, what they'll just have to do is keep extending it and extending it and extending it. But the people who aren't paying now are not going to pay by then. Okay. So what we're going to have is we are going to have an avalanche of foreclosures. And you know what happens then? The value of real estate goes in the tank because now we've got a whole lot of cheap property to buy. And when there's a lot of cheap property to buy, that brings down the value of the market across the board. Does that make sense? Okay. And it's going to happen. It's not because I'm brilliant or I don't see into the future. I can see into the past. That's how I know. That's what, if you want to see what's going to happen in the future, just draw a straight line back through the past. And the past points to the future. Because man, as an animal, as a group, as the group of sheep and lemmings that most are, they don't understand. They don't want to take the time to learn their history. I know that saying by George Santayana. Those who refuse to know their history are doomed to repeat it. But that's true. That's because people don't want to spend the mental energy or time to learn about what's happened in the past. So everything is new to them. To someone that everything is new to, they make stupid decisions. Okay? The ones who make smart decisions at the expense of the ones who make stupid decisions are the ones who understand history and how things work. So I would suggest that one of the best things you can do, the best ways to spend your time and your money, well, first off, don't spend your money right now. Things are about to start getting cheaper, regardless of what you hear about inflation. Okay, that's a whole nother ball game. Spend your time learning. Spend your time learning about history, not just 200 years ago, not just 1776, but how things work in the modern economic climate. When you see that, you won't be afraid because you won't think that this is all new. And, oh my gosh, this is the last time I'm going to be able to buy a gun or a piece of property or anything. No, it's not. It's setting up for great opportunities for those who are smart. So, get smart. Okay? Realize the whole point of this, what I'm talking about today, was that fear is the result of ignorance. Okay? Not stupidity so much, just ignorance. Ignorance is a lack of knowledge. Now, if there's a lot of people that are just determined to be stupid, and that means to remain in their ignorance and almost to be proud of their ignorance, to find a position that they have just fallen in love with, and then to hold on to that thing, till they roll down into the ditch, because it's their opinion and they love it. Well, it's an opinion not based on that. It's an opinion based on false information, and it's stupid. But invest yourself in getting smart and understanding. So that was the whole point of this today, is don't do things out of fear. And intelligence or information and understanding information will remove fear. Okay? Fear is that thing, that horrible emotional response, negative response from things that we don't understand. Because usually if you understand something, you're going to be able to devise a plan to deal with it. Okay? So do that. Make that. I suggest to everybody, if people ask me, what should I be doing right now? Saving your money, because you're going to get a lot better deal on things within the next year or two. Okay? And everybody should be living long term. You should be thinking long term. That's another problem with most people in the world. Not just Americans, but across the world. They don't think long term, except the Chinese. They think short term. They think, what about today? What about Friday? What am I going to wear? Stupid things like that. Um, so develop an understanding. That's the most important thing to do right now. Save your money and learn. Start spending your time instead of talking about where can I get ammo. Spend some time learning a little bit about economics, because that's where you're going to make some real steps forward. And being economically sound is one of the first and most important steps towards real preparedness. Okay. I can see that almost led into, I could do another 30 minutes on that, so I'm going to stop, and maybe I'll remember to continue that, but I'm going to stop right there. Stop being afraid. Learn these lessons from the past, and apply that learning, apply that new knowledge that you have to getting ready for the opportunities that are coming your way, because they are if you're smart. Okay, I'm going to leave it at there. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And preparing well means preparing intelligently and with a purpose, with an understanding of the world around us and how that world can change. And then we're going to live a lot better in the future. Okay? You all have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.